Welcome. I'd like to introduce the CEO of the museum, Norman Seligman, to do the official welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. We have a number of museum members here. We have some Holocaust survivors, and we have a large number of visitors here. I must say that I've never seen most of you before. And that is incredible, because I'm hoping that you will use this opportunity to then come back to the museum, which is this education center that you're in now. But there really is a lot to see. So I hope this won't be the first time, or the last time, shall I say, and we hope that you come back many more times. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this afternoon's satellite event with the Sydney Writers' Festival, featuring Holocaust survivor Eddie Jaku, also known as the happiest man on earth. A special welcome to Eddie, and also his son Andre, who is sitting right at the back there. His Pan Macmillan publisher, Kate Black, and publicist Claire Kearley. Welcome to you. And then we have, on my right-hand side, a number of special guests who will be reading excerpts of either letters that have been written to Eddie, or in some cases even their own letters. But Aviva Wolf, our operations manager, will introduce all of them a little later on. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Gadigal clan of the Eora Nation. We give thanks to the elders and traditional custodians, past and present, who have cared for this land for thousands of years. May we walk with care on this land that sustains the spirit of these people and which has provided a home for our community. The Sydney Jewish Museum is a world-class museum and educational institution. In 2019, we had nearly 60,000 visitors at the museum, including 30,000 school students. Like all museums, we were significantly impacted by COVID, and in fact, we were closed for a large part of last year. But I'm very pleased to say that we are really now back to business as usual. Last month, we had nearly 4,000 students back in the museum, and it's also been, very busy now. Working at the Sydney Jewish Museum can sometimes be very tough, but there are also many privileges. And one of them is the opportunity to meet and work with Holocaust survivors who have virtually become like members of our own family. Eddie, on my left here, was one of the original survivor guides when the museum opened in 1992. Since then, he has spoken to tens of thousands of school students and adults right across the country, including regularly to the police and military academies. I've listened to Eddie many, many times, whether it's at events, talking to schools and adult groups, or just in one-on-one situations. And no matter how often one gets the opportunity, it's always a massive privilege to be able to talk to and listen to Eddie. Eddie is 101, as you might not know. By the way, the reason why I brought a little baby up here a minute ago was Eddie says he's in now the second year of his second century. And that little baby was in the first year of his first century. So I thought it would be a nice picture for us to take. Like all of you, I take a look at Eddie and I think, I hope I look that good when I'm 101. And then I say to myself, well, maybe when I'm 90 or 80. And then I say to myself, face facts, Norman, you don't even look as Eddie right now. So Eddie, you're phenomenal. Eddie's book has generated massive interest, and he is now justifiably an international celebrity. The book has so far sold nearly 200,000 copies in Australia alone. And the rights to publish it have been sold to 29 other countries, including the US, the UK, France, and Germany. This past week, Eddie's book was awarded Biography of the Year at the Sydney Writers' Festival. last year, we really wanted to give Eddie a great 100th birthday party, but unfortunately, we were in lockdown. But this year, we were able to do it on the 14th of April, right here, when he turned 101. And we have a saying in Hebrew, it says, Bis 120, which is, may you get at least to 120. And so we always say that. Eddie was awarded an OAM in 2015 for his significant contribution to Holocaust education and to the community at large. Eddie, it is a privilege for me to call you my friend, and I'd now like to ask you to come up and give us a brief resume of your life and Holocaust memories. Eddie Jaku.
Okay. Good afternoon, my friends. I was born in April 1920 in Leipzig, a beautiful city, 950 years old, Germany, into a very, very large and very friendly family. I was born Abraham Solomon Jakubowicz. And now my name is Eddie Jaku. I attended the Leibniz Gymnasium school, but in 1933 I was kicked out for being Jewish. However, with false papers, I was able to continue my education at a mechanical engineering college far away from my parents. For 5.5 years, I have not seen my parents. When I needed my mom the most, I was unable to tell her how much I love and how much I missed her. I was on the false papers. My name was Walter Schleif. On November 1938, I was 18.5 years old. As I didn't have time to listen to news and read newspapers because I worked in a factory making surgical instruments in the daytime, and every night, including Saturday, I studied university and so forth. I arrived home to find my family had gone in hiding. That night, Nazis broke in the door of our house, and I was so badly beaten that I said to myself, Eddie, today you're going to die. And they took me in a truck to Buchenwald, a terrible camp. A camp where people walk in chains, communists, socialists, homosexuals, gypsies, and 11,000 Jews in a tent. Not in barracks, not in a bed, on the floor. You have no idea. If you read my book, you will. That day, I stopped being a proud German because I was a very proud young German. I thought this was the best civilization could give to a young man like me. How wrong I was. Eventually, I was released on the condition that I worked for the Third Reich and was then reunited with my family. My family moved to Brussels, but life was very difficult, with many arrests, releases, escapes, which I've detailed in my book. One evening in the winter 1943, my family was arrested, and in February 1944, we arrived at Auschwitz railway station. I was quickly separated from my family. The number on my arm is 172338. Was tattooed on my left arm. Within hours, I learned that both of my parents died a horrible death in a gas chamber where it takes about 20 minutes to suffocate. They were murdered. Why? I don't understand. If I live 150 years, I will not be able to explain what happened to my country, the most civilized, the most cultural, and certainly the most educated country in Europe. Why? All my life I ask why, and I haven't found an answer yet. Can't move the paper. We never had the chance to say goodbye. That's why I say, tell your mother how much you love her. Do this for your mother and for your new friend, Eddie. Who cannot tell his mother? In Auschwitz, I worked as a slave labor, and thanks to my excellent technical training, I was classified as an economically indispensable Jew. I worked for Bayer, and I was in charge of 200 machines. And around my neck, I had a chain, and on this chain was written with a plate, if one machine stops, you hang. The machines were going on air pressures. So I made 200 whistles. There were 200 machines out of stainless steel. But I needed a steel ball, but I had no steel ball. So I found in a guillotine some pips from cherries. They became my balls. Wasn't so loud like with a steel ball. It was enough. I had good ears then. I said to all the people, if you see the clock going down a bit, you whistle, I run, I stop the machine, and I don't hang. Nobody ever missed to call me, and no machine stopped without me stopping it. So that is how I survived. Not only, when you have 10 Jewish men from Germany, you have 2 doctors. They're the smartest one. They don't need, like my father, a factory, or like me, a factory. They got everything in their head and their hands. If they're thrown out, they have to move somewhere, they can work. So we have a lot of doctors in Germany. And the Germans needed doctors in Auschwitz, in all the camps, and in their hospitals. So all the doctors were taken every morning, 7 o'clock, to hospitals in Germany. For this, the Jews were all right. We were not all right otherwise. But to work on Germans and repair their bodies, because their doctors were on the front looking after the army. And the doctors get 4 potatoes every day, but they couldn't eat the potatoes. So they come to Eddie. I cook the potatoes. I charge 1 potato for 4. 3 for the doctor, 1 for me. So I had always those pockets and those pockets full of potatoes. And the German, they have very heavy boots. And on the front of the boots is a piece of steel. And if they don't like your face, they let you pass and hit you in your backside. And you will not sit on your backside for 2 weeks. Start bleeding. My best friend lived in block 14, and me in 14, he in 32. And one night I go to him to bring him some potatoes. And I heard somebody, it was snowing cold. I had my collar up, and I hear somebody, boom, boom, boom. I turn around, that's when he wanted to hit me in my backside. But he hit me in the potatoes. It didn't hurt me. So I had to walk away like that, to show him that he hurt me. Otherwise, he gives me another one. When I came to my friend Kurt, I said, Kurt, sorry, today is mashed potatoes. It's wonderful. I also made a very special friend, Kurt. And my friendship with him, and he was one of the main reasons I survived. We were 4 young Germans in Auschwitz, and 2 of them after 4 or 5 months. They couldn't take it anymore. And they went to the wire. I said to my friend many times, let's go to the wire. We go naked because we sleep naked. We're holding hands. One touches with the left, the other touches with the right. 30 seconds, electrocuted. You feel nothing. And when I said to him, let's go to the wire, he said, no, we're going to survive. And when he was sick, he came to me. And he said, let's go. I said, no. We say in French, l'union fait la force. Together we are strong. Alone we are zero. Please value friendship. Friendship you cannot buy. A friend is someone who reminds you to feel alive. On the 18th of January 1945, the long dead march began, taking me back to Buchenwald and then Sonnenberg. Then on the march again. I managed to escape, and I hid in a cave. You wouldn't believe it. 2 months in a cave, alone. What did you think I eat? Snails. Big snails. You find them in Germany, they're all stuck together. 500, 2,000. So I covered them up. I said, I don't know how long I need them. You cut them in half with a stone, and then you put in your mouth. You can't bite them. They go from one side to the other. They run away from you. I'm laughing now, I didn't laugh then. Because one night, a little chicken came in the cave, and I caught it. And I tried to do everything possible I wanted to make. I done like this with timber. I rubbed with stones. I couldn't make fire. I had to let her go again. I would have chicken, roast chicken. So I was very, very sick because I didn't know every 3 days, I collected some water from a creek. And I didn't know that next to that creek was a factory making thermometer. They used mercury, and mercury is no good for you. And I was eating or drinking mercury. And I became so sick that I couldn't stand anymore on my legs. I decided to give myself up. I couldn't stand up, so I had to do on my hands and my knees 80 meters to the highway. It took me a full day. As I came to the highway is 1.5 meters above the fields. I had to crawl a bit more to some bushes, and when I pulled myself up, I put my head on the highway. I am in front of an American tank. The war was over for a month, and I didn't know. I don't know, I blessed those American soldiers every day. They picked me up, I weighed 28 kilos. I was so skinny. And I woke up after 7 days in a coma. I woke up in a German hospital where they took me. And I asked it for the next 2 months, Professor Hoffman, what are my chances? He never answered. As soon as I asked, he walked away. And one night, a sister came to my bed, tall, Emma. Oh, Emma, yes, Emma. Emma was her name. And she put her head on my blanket to want to see if I'm breathing. And I grabbed her arm, and I said, Emma, I'm not letting your arm go till you tell me, what did he tell you? And I started crying. And she whispered in my ear, 65% you're dead and 35% you live. And I made a vow. If I come out of this hospital alive, I'll never, ever come back to your country again. I'm sorry. Never. I have never been back to I go to Europe many times, but never. So back in Belgium, I was miraculously reunited with my sister, Henny, and my friend Kurt. And soon we met our love, the love of our life, my wife, Flo. In 1950, Flo and I and my little boy was born in 1946, Michel, and I have another boy who's here today, born here in Brighton-le-Sands in 1952. And that made me and gave me the title, the happiest man on earth. Because I supposed to die when they put that number here. On one side of Auschwitz are the Nazis. And on the other side, 7 kilometers away, are 11 factories who need workers. Without those, the war would not have continued. If we would all be dead, there would be no war. Because the Germans had no workers, and they used us. And this is important. And you see, today I'm standing in front of you as the happiest man on earth. And I want to make this world a better place for everyone. Thank you.
Well, doesn't take much doing for Eddie to make us all happy. Every time he walks into the museum, he makes us happy. Every time he talks to a school group, they leave never ever forgetting their moment with Eddie. And the same has happened with his book. People have read the book and feel like they know and met Eddie. I'm Aviva Wolf. I'm the operations and events manager. I've now become Eddie's PA. I started getting letters, thousands and thousands of letters and emails on a daily basis. And I said to Eddie, I'm giving up my day job. I'm going to become your PA, because Eddie connects with people in such a way that every single person who read the book wanted to let Eddie know how he had touched them. And we were faced with these hundreds and hundreds of the most beautiful letters, emotional letters, beautiful words. And that's where we thought we would start this event, with reading a few of the very, very special letters that we'd received. And what's even more lovely is that a lot of the people who've written the letters are actually here with us today. So we're going to read a few excerpts from these beautiful letters that Eddie's received. I've got a most beautiful email just this morning from someone in Holland saying, how can I connect with Eddie? Somebody called us from the Parliament in England to say, we want to speak to Eddie. You know, Eddie's fame and fortune far and wide, everybody knows Eddie Jaku. I always say, to me, he's the new Anne Frank of today, because everybody knows the name Eddie Jaku, which is absolutely marvelous. And I know he says to everyone, I'm your best friend, but he has told me I'm his best friend. So, we're going to start with Anne Slade, who's going to read a beautiful letter from a gentleman called Kai, who couldn't be with us today. Anne's part of our public programs team. Thank you for all your help. And Anne's going to read this beautiful letter from Kai.
My wife gave me your book, and at the time I couldn't understand the title. To survive the Holocaust and to be the happiest man on earth didn't make sense to me. It didn't fit. But after reading your book and realizing the power of your message to hundreds of people and winning their hearts and minds, I now understand the message in the title. That's what Kai said.
Thank you, Anne. Then we've got Charlie. Charlie Munns is with us today, and this is Charlie's own words. He wrote a beautiful letter, and we managed to track down Charlie. Thank you.
Despite the multiple hardships you've faced in your life, you have not allowed any of them to bitter your personality. I find your attitude to life and your saying, such as, May you always have love to share, may you always have health to spare, and may you always have friends that care. Very inspirational. With your book, you have opened my eyes to things I would not have considered.
Thanks, Julie. We then received a beautiful letter from an army officer who's actually posted overseas. And we won't give his name because he wanted to remain anonymous, but Terry, who's another one of our public programs team, is going to read the letter from the army officer. Thank you.
Eddie, you addressed the Australian Command Staff College in Canberra, which made an indelible impression on me. As we stood and clapped, I was conscious that none of us could look at our neighbour because they would have seen our eyes filled with tears. That does not happen often in a military audience. Reading your book reinforced your message of hope and how we as a species can turn away from evil if we so choose. Thank you for all you have done to spread your message of gratitude, kindness, and hope.
Thank you. Then we had a beautiful letter from Janet Cullen, who's with us today, and she has asked her daughter, Prue, to read her words on her behalf. Thank you, Prue.
Eddie, the massive mountains you have climbed and reached the other side so safely leave me feeling very small and very contrite. A million thanks, my new friend, for giving me the strength and courage to overcome the weaknesses I have. I promise you I shall make life more beautiful. I know I can. You have shown me that it is up to me. With love and gratitude, Janet Cullen.
Thank you. We then got a letter from Catherine, who's a nurse in London. And Leslie Russell, another one of the lovely program ladies, is going to read Catherine's words. Thanks, Leslie.
Catherine works in healthcare in England, and she says we've had a very tough year. Your family are so lucky, Eddie, to have you, and you've been so brave in the face of such adversity and built an amazing life for you, your wife, and your family. You give the rest of us such strength at a time when the world needs it the most. Thank you, Eddie, for giving me the courage to carry on fighting COVID, and thank you for being my new friend.
And then we got this beautiful letter from Zachary, who's 8 years old, and it just touched the cockles of my heart. Let me pull it back a bit, Zach. There you go.
Wow, what you have been through. I find you so strong, inspirational, and just the best person ever. Your book is so good. It is just so good to read, I couldn't put it down. Please can you write in my book? Dear Zachary, be a proud Jew and be grateful for everything you have, especially your family. P.S. I really hope I could meet you one day.
And when I spoke to Zachary's mum and I said, will he be okay on the stage? She said, those are his words. He's more than happy to come up on the stage, and his dream came true today. Thank you, Zachary. You're marvellous. We then got a letter from Maria in New Zealand. And Dion, who's also a public programs team, thank you, Dion, is going to read the letter from Maria.
I hope I can channel the lessons your story tells by always hoping for a better tomorrow, cherishing the small things in life, like a tub of ice cream and a nice sunset. I thought the quote in your book about sadness being halved and pleasure doubled when you share them was the essence of friendship. Your book has deepened my understanding of what happiness is and how simple it is to achieve.
I then got a gorgeous letter from Charlotte Russell, and I said, Charlotte, would you like to be with us? And she said, sure, let me just ask my dad if we can fly in from Queensland. And Dad, Tim, thank you very, very much for bringing yourself and Charlotte to be with us this afternoon. It really is very special. Charlotte, come and read your letter.
My favourite quote in your book is, "The most important thing I have learned, the greatest thing you will ever do, is to love another person. I cannot emphasise this enough, especially to young people. Without friendship, a human being is lost. A friend is someone who reminds you to feel alive." It reminded me that being or having a kind and caring friend is more important than wealth or results on a report card. My new friend Eddie, if I ever lose hope or find myself in a dark place, I know where to turn, and your book will always be on my bedside table, and your story will always hold a very special place in my heart.
We then got a letter from Maximilian, and this was really poignant because he had met Eddie at the retirement village that he and Flor, his wife of 75 years, last Wednesday. Can you imagine having a 75th wedding anniversary? Just amazing. And Maximilian met Eddie there, and Maximilian is of German descent, so I thought that was very poignant, and he'd actually written to his family in Germany to say that he had met Eddie, and they share a birthday. So Maximilian, please come up.
Hello, Eddie. As you know, I was born in Halle an der Saale, which is near Leipzig, on the 14th of April, the same day as yours. I grew up in Germany, and in history lessons, we learned about the dark parts of German history. Believe me, Eddie, even my generation, and still so many others, we feel very sorry what my country, Germany, did to you and all the other European Jews. Eddie, for that, I actually would like to apologize what Germany did to you and to all the other European Jews. I'm glad and happy that there are still a lot of survivors like you who share their stories of grief, trauma, survival, as well as hope and love. These stories should be always remembered and never forgotten. I was very lucky enough to meet you when I had a shift as a nurse in your place of residence earlier this year, and I shared the news with my family in Germany. They were all very amazed, astonished, and they said the fact that you met Eddie, Max, is a gift and perhaps has a meaning. Eddie, believe me, it had a massive meaning in my life to meet you and a positive impact. For that, I would like to thank you very much indeed, and I will always keep you in very good memory. Thank you.
I can barely contain myself. Emma wrote us a beautiful letter, and she was very frank and honest, and she was kind enough to come and be with us today, so welcome, Emma.
Oh gosh. Okay. You told us that if we ever have the chance to tell our mum that we love her, to do so. I hadn't been talking to my mum, and I had not seen her in a few days, and I could not remember the last time I told her that I loved her. She's my best friend, and I would never want to lose her. Your words saved me and my relationship. That night, I told my mum I loved her, and we spent all night together for the first time in forever. Thank you, Eddie.
I then received two beautiful letters, and it said letter number 1 and letter number 2. So one was from the mum and one was from the daughter. And again, I said, wouldn't you love to be with us today? Your letters are so beautiful and meaning. And Tamara and Bronte have flown in from the Whitsundays. Thank you so much for being with us today. Tamara, you go first. Tamara's Bronte's mum, and she's going to read her letter first.
What an honour it has been to relive your remarkable life through my daughter Bronte, who read snippets of your book to me each evening as I prepared dinner. She was captivated with your life from the first page.
Yours was the book she chose as her summer holiday reading, and it changed her life. She is only 13, but Bronte will remember her 2020 Christmas holidays because of your incredible story.
Bronte, your turn.
I walked into a bookstore and caught a glimpse of your book with the title, The Happiest Man on Earth, and decided immediately to buy it. My mum always says, you don't pick the book, it picks you. I'm so glad I did because my friend, it changed my life. I was on the edge of my seat throughout the entire book. I read passages to my mother, and I remember one time she hugged me and said, we have been on this adventure together. Before I read your book, I didn't know anything about the Holocaust or Auschwitz. Eddie, this book was a roller coaster of emotions. You had me crying, laughing, smiling, feeling angry. Through those emotions, you taught me many valuable lessons. I always remember to tell my parents how much I love them. I promise you, Eddie, my friend, your story will not be forgotten.
So just another round of applause for those beautiful, honest, and open letters. And I'm sure the letters will keep rolling on. So Eddie and I are just going to have a little chat. I'm going to ask him a few questions, mostly based on his book rather than his life. And a lot of people asked these questions and asked us to ask these questions. So Eddie, my friend.
My good friend.
I thought you said best friend. He always
Best
retracts.
friend. You're all my best friend.
So Eddie, for many years, many of the survivors had written their books. They'd written their memoirs and their beautiful, wonderful stories in our shop. And we kept saying to Eddie, how come you've never written a book, Eddie? And he kept saying, no, I'm not really that interested. I don't want to write my memoir. I've told my story so many times. But Pam Macmillan, you two came along, and they twisted Eddie's arm, and they talked about selling 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 books initially. I don't think anyone imagined the roller coaster journey that this book would bring, and the fame and fortune that would catapult Eddie. So Eddie, what made you eventually decide that you would write your book?
Okay. If this lady wouldn't come to me 5, 6 times from there, I wouldn't write it. But when I looked in TV, and I was already 100 years old in April last year, and she kept on saying, your book is necessary now more than ever. And we had the pandemic, and big companies rang me up and said, you have been through much more than we're doing now with the pandemic. And I spoke to many companies to tell them a little bit about my suffering. They didn't have any more suffering because they had a bed, they had a TV, they had families. We were alone, we were criminals, less than criminals. So, as I was disappointed that the world react to a pandemic like if the world is going down under, we're all in this together, and I gave them hope and things, and I agreed we're going with a very nice gentleman who helped me to put it in proper English because this is not my first language, and we wrote a book. But in the wildest dream, I did not believe that I would have such a success. It is amazing, and it is wonderful. It's rewarding, and I'm happy. It gives me more that I have done the right thing because the world needs this book. The world has lost families, falling apart. You have all the gadgets, technology, but you're going backwards. family brothers don't speak to each other. Sisters are in court because of the money the father left. And all this, that breaks my heart. Why? We have lost respect. The children are not anymore the children when we were young. We loved our parents, we knew. I said to my sons one day, 10 years ago, you owe me nothing. I made you for my pleasure. You owe me respect, that's all. And children, I want to say to all of you, a child, any embassy can make a child, but to bring a child the right way and the good way. More you spoil it, you don't give them any help. Because if they get everything they want, when that breaks down, they lost. I was very hard. My father was very tough, and I was a little bit tough. Because I am brought up like this, it worked out okay, so I done the same to my children. Yeah. And you see, love you cannot buy. More you give, more you get. But if you get too much, you suffocate them. You see, children who get, I want this, yes, yes, a car. No, a little car, Porsche, Mercedes. It's no good, no good. A car is only a little tool. It takes you from A to B. I don't have to show off. My luxury is inside, what I can offer you, not outside. My father used to say, where's my German friend? Mit Geld sollst du nicht stolzieren. Du kannst es sehr leicht verlieren. That means with money you shouldn't show off. Today you got it, and tomorrow it can go. Put your luxury inside your house. Offer people who have nothing. I asked my mom once, because we have a special bread for Friday night. And we were only 4 people. My father, my mom, my sister, and me. And my mom made 3-4 challahs. So I said to my mom, why are you making so many challahs? And she said, you never know how many people your father brings home. But he can't bring home more than 5, because there wouldn't be any seats on the table. But this is important, to share. To share. And this is my book. I say, happiness doubles if you share it. If you're happy and you have enough money, share some with somebody who has no money. This is, we must change the world. We will live in a better world if we share. Some people are hopeless, it's not their fault. We have to help. Sorry.
That's why his book resonates, because you can ask Eddie any question and he comes out with things that you just want to hang on his every word. Let's say hello to the 2 ladies from Pan Macmillan who's really put this book and catapulted it to where it is today. Stand up, ladies. Let's give you a round of applause. Kate and Claire. I think they've also been incredible good friends to Eddie, haven't they, Eddie?
Yes, thank you. Yes, right.
But Eddie, why do you think, if we look at most of the letters we've received, they're all from very young people. So you connect with a young audience, and all the students you talk to remember you forever. What is it, do you think?
Yes, because if I want to change this world, it's not the people of 50, 60 who will help me changing it. It's the people who will make the future of this country. I love this country. This country has given me everything which I needed to be what I am. And this is in the hands of the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. They will change the time. They will change the country. And then these young people of 16, 18, they are the followers. They will copy what the 20, 30 years old will do. So I have to impress the 20 to 30 years old generation. My book is really for them. because I want them to know how important mom and dad is, and uncles and aunties. This is blood. Blood is thicker than water. You understand? And you have to stick together, even if you don't agree. But you have to stick together. This world needs more harmony. Harmony has gone, and that is because you have too many other things. The children are now on the table, on the tablet. Tablet, what you call it?
Yes, yes. iPhones,
They don't speak
iPads.
to each other anymore. It's no communication. We used to speak. We sit on the table for 1.5, 2 hours, and we talk to each other, and we learn from each other, and we help each other. This has gone because elders go. And the people can't. You saw how I write? I'm 101 years old. I write better than a young person. When my doctor gives me a prescription, I can't read it.
Eddie. Eddie, how do you feel? Your book's been translated into so many languages, but how do you feel about your book being translated into German and German people reading your book today? How does that make you feel?
If you would have said that to me 30 years ago, I say, go away. Now, today, look, like this gentleman there. He hasn't done nothing to me. I can be his friend, and he's my friend, because he has not done. But I like him to learn something. There is no excuse for killing and brutality. I cannot and will not forgive or forget. I had once an invitation. My Bürgermeister, that is the town mayor of Leipzig, was always very nice. He invites me to come to Leipzig, pays me first-class ticket, 2 weeks in Hotel Astoria is the best hotel in Leipzig, and 4,000. Before it was 2,000 euros spending money, now it's 4,000. But he died. And there's a new one, and he was younger than my son. And he wrote to me a letter that I can't understand you. Why aren't you coming? We pay you a first-class ticket to see your city. You are well off in Australia, and you don't accept our invitation? And that is not right. He's too young and not very smart. Because you don't tell an old man like me, 10 years ago, I was still 90, you should come. Why? So I rang him up. First I had to make a statutory declaration that I'm not going to kill him. But I'm not a killer. Kill no one. So I rang him up in the evening at home because I didn't want to make him any trouble in his office. His name was Tiefensee. Tiefensee. That's Deep Lake. And I said, Mr. Tiefensee, how old are you? 53. You got parents? I said, yeah. I'll kill your parents. I come. I shoot them. They die in 30 seconds. No pain. And in 10 years' time, I invite you back to my house, if I'm still alive. Will you come? No. Now you know why I'm not coming. That's the problem. You see, you don't kill somebody and then say sorry. That must be learned. You will kill no one. You don't agree with people, but you have no right to kill those people. And this, our guards in Auschwitz were not the sweepers, not the Straßen cleaners, aristocracy, doctors, lawyers, architects, designers, they were our guards. That's the difference. So, Hitler hat gesagt, wir sind nicht gut, dann musst du uns totschlagen. Nein. See, that's what I want to change. That is why, when I left Auschwitz and I came to the Belgian border. I threw everything away. I had no clothes. I got clothes from a farmer. I had nothing left than my bed, which is in the museum. And I said, I will never put my feet again who took my family. My mom was from 13 children, 7 girls and 6 boys. My father from 4 and 4. I had only one uncle and one auntie who left Germany, one in 1933 and one in 1936, and I had my sister. That's all from a very large family. I have so many cousins I couldn't even tell you the names. And I asked myself always, why? They were German first and German second and Jewish at home. We were Germans. This was our country. I lost 2 uncles and a grandfather fighting for Germany. How assimilated can you be to give your family to fight for that country? We're Germans, and they done that to us. And you cannot just say, sorry, it's not us, but it's my father or my grandfather. And if I had a grandfather who was a Nazi, I'd change my name. I don't be the son of a murderer. And this is what we have to teach the children. And this is what I speak about in the book. You see, that we are responsible for what our family is doing. We have to stand up for right or wrong. You know, in French, men is homme. I call the German omelette. A man is only in a man if he knows what is right and wrong. And if he doesn't, he's not a man. That is a man stand for. To stand up what's right and wrong. And there is no political and nothing. No religion. For me, a human is a human. I don't even kill an animal. It hurts me when I see they kill chicken. It's a chicken. I like chickens. I couldn't kill a chicken then. So
one more question about the book.
Please.
A lot of people have asked, what happened to Kurt? Where did Kurt go? Did you keep in touch? Do you keep in touch with Kurt's family? Just tell us a little bit about your relationship with Kurt after the war.
Yes. After the war.
Yes, because we know you had this beautiful
Kurt was
friendship.
smarter than me. The German had all my, how do you say this? Everything where I come from and my
all
family,
your documents.
My documents. But Kurt they didn't have. He came from Königsberg, you know, a little in Ostpreußen. And they said, what are you? And he said, shoemaker. He never looked in a part of his own shoes. He didn't know how a shoe is made. And he became a shoemaker. So he didn't have to walk 7 kilometers to work in the rain, in the snow, in the cold. He was always in the camp. That's already an advantage. Then if there is any food left in the camp, they share between them. And he learned how to repair the shoes of the German soldiers. Not we have no shoes. We have wooden shoes with linen. And so he was smarter, and he looked after me, and I looked after him. And we met every night, even that it's 20 minutes. His block is 20 minutes walk from my block. And after the war, when we had on the march, he became very weak. I made 2 bottles for water. You know, like you drink whiskey, thin bottles, but I made them in a way that it fits around inside your shirt. So we had water. But on the dead march, if I would take this bottle of water out, I'm dead. The other people would kill me for that water. So I only can, in the night, open my jacket, open the little bottle, put my finger in, and suck like this. If I take it out, I'm dead. They kill me for that water. My people, because they have no water. So we arrived in Gleiwitz, the border town which was from Poland, and Kurt said to me, I cannot go any further. So I went down in the shower of this Polish military building, and I saw a manhole. I found a ladder, I got up the ladder, opened the manhole, and two people say, psst. Two people were hiding there already. So I ran back to my friend on the second floor. I kissed him, I hugged him, I said, I found a hiding place. I helped him up, he hugged me again, and I pushed him in there, closed the manhole, put the ladder back. If I would have gone there, 2 days later, my friend was liberated by the Russian, and I was another 6 months with those people. So you see, we bonded very much. We all have faults, you see. Today, the people have friends. It's in French, it's very nice, épluché. Somebody speaks épluché. Friends today, young men or young women, they get sick of their friend. And what they do, they open your head and they look with a magnifying glass for faults. We all have faults. If you do that, you are not a real friend. You don't deserve the friend because you don't do that. A friend is like a second self. You share humiliation, you share pleasure. As I said before, so shared pleasure is double, shared sorrow is half. And that is the best. This is why I speak so much, friendship. So we came back, and somebody in my room where I live now, I have a sculpture, because Kurt and me, we were running around like this in the streets of Brussels in Belgium. We stopped in front of a cake shop, and I said to Kurt, Kurt, can you imagine, I have enough money in my pocket to buy all those cakes. And we're dancing and we're laughing because you don't understand. But when you're deprived of all the things necessary, and suddenly I have the opportunity, that makes us happy. So we had big losses, but I had to find something to make him happy because he was more down than me. He was a loner. And so we lived together. We slept together in the same room, even we had 3 bedrooms, the same bed. And we married together. He one woman, me another woman. It was very nice. And my sister. We were really a trio, which was wonderful. He emigrated in 1948 with his wife and 1 child. So you asked me also in your question. I keep in touch. On the 27th of April, I rang Miki Hirschfeld. She's 973. And
She's
Michel,
the daughter?
She's his daughter. He
Okay.
has a daughter and a son.
Wow. And where are they, Eddie?
I have only 2 sons.
Where are they living? Where are they living?
In Haifa.
In Israel.
In Israel. If you have a daughter, you have for life. If you have a son, he gets a wife. But I have no complaint.
So, Eddie, my last question, which brings us back to the museum.
Yes.
You were one of the founders of the museum.
Yes.
It started in such a small way, the survivors wanting to make sure that their stories would be told, remembered. They started the museum, and to see the museum, what it is today, Eddie, this morning by 11 o'clock, there were already 150 visitors in the museum. It's become a busy place, and I want to know how you feel seeing the museum grow like this over the years.
Yeah. For 30 years, we hardly spoke. We spoke a little bit at home or to friends and things like that. I spoke to my wife. But in 1972, we created about 30 or 40 survivors, met regularly, and we said we have to make a home for us, for the families where we can have coffee and speak. And we found Mr. Saunders, who was willing to put money into a home. We had not enough money to buy a place like that. And we worked for many, maybe 2-3 years. I was one of the 20 foundation that we made, that we every day somebody went to Mr. Saunders' office for 2-3 hours. Before he could see him, 2-3 hours waiting for sure. Buy him a present, tell him about a bit. He's a survivor, but for a very short time. And eventually he agreed, and he made this beautiful. And I have been here now next year. In November will be 30 years that we have started here. And I am one who never, even I had my own business, if the person who allocate the people would ring me, I leave my business and come here to speak. And that could be 2-3 times, sometimes a week. And every month, once a Sunday, I was always here. So we have committed ourselves to keep this, be volunteers, no wages, and work here for pleasure, because we owe this to our families, to our people. We want to make sure that something stays. We'll remember my parents who died so young. And I want to make also the people aware. We have to fight them when they create. When people say, I hate. You must not say, I hate. You can say, I don't like those people. This is acceptable, but not hate. Please don't use this word, hate. It's a dangerous word. And I say again, education does not start at school. It starts at home. Whatever you say, your children will repeat, if they understand or not. And it's easier to hate than to love. But we want to change this. I want you to learn from our past. You can only learn from us if you want to learn and make this life better. It's easy if you want. If we have 50% of the population who want to change how we live and how we organize, it will be a better world. Let's go back to fundamentalism. Don't let everything made by machines. Computer. Soon we have robots. All the surgeons will be out of business. So the surgeons here will be all robots. So,
you know, I said to Eddie earlier today, if I could auction him off, or auction a couple of lunches with Eddie, we'd make a lot of money for the museum. And you know, for the survivors, the most important lesson for them is to know that the museum will continue, to know that the museum will be here for years and years to come in the future. They have spent their lives telling their stories. Somebody like Eddie, you know, the words of wisdom and the words that carry through to the future generations, we have to make sure that this museum remains, that this museum continues to grow. And it's people like yourselves that can help us do that. We've got membership forms as you're walking out. And it's not the financial contribution, which is very small, to become a member. It's just to show that you care, that you will remember, that you will be a part of New Museum, and you will be Eddie's best friend. So please think about becoming a member of the museum. We've got membership forms on the way out. As I wrote to everybody and said before, I mean, Eddie's a phenomenon and no one can believe he's 101, but we really want to try and protect him today. We can't have the whole group of people sort of surrounding him. If you want to come past and just say a quick hello without coming on the stage. I offered to park his car in the garage the other day and he said, Aviva, what's wrong with you? I can reverse park. Whiz, 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 in he went. So, you know, it is really a phenomenon.
3-4 days ago,
Yes.
the Prime Minister made a speech in a UAA in a function.
Yes.
And he used my words. what I say always when I finished where I speak, I say I wish you from the bottom of my heart, may you always have lots of love to share, lots of good health to spare, and wonderful friends that care. That's the most important wish from me to you.
Absolutely. In fact, Scott Morrison himself wrote to Eddie and said that he'd read his book and given it to people. And a few weeks ago, Josh Frydenberg insisted on coming to the museum to meet Eddie. He was absolutely blown away by being here and meeting Eddie. So, you know, Eddie.
You hold my hand for 2 hours.
This is a very...
I said, maybe you want some money.
You are so funny. This is a small little gift to say thank you for being who you are and to tell you how much we all love and adore you.
Thank you.
And you're going to look very geschmack in your new time. I want to thank you all on behalf of Eddie for being here today and being able to share this moment and this time. You know, I put this event on and literally within about 4 or 5 days, I had sold out the seats. And we've actually put on a repeat event in 2 weeks' time because there's so many people who just want to catch a glimpse of Eddie, see Eddie. We have got, and I'm not sure how many are left, but Eddie did pre-sign books that are available to purchase on your way out. So he's not going to be signing books. It's really too much to ask of Eddie to have him sign your books, although he'd say yes if you asked him, but we're saying no on his behalf. So the books are on sale on the way out. Thank you so much for being here. As I said, remember the museum. Tell people what an amazing place this is and what beautiful messages we pass on, because they're not messages of hate. They're not messages of anger. They are beautiful messages for the future. And they're messages of kindness and hope and tolerance. So those are the messages that we are here to teach everybody. Thank you again to our beautiful letter readers. Thank you from me to our public program team for all their help. And let's give a standing ovation to the man of the moment.
Thank you.
Whoa!